The Galactic Council chamber was larger than any city on Earth. It floated in deep space, built from silver metal and dark crystal. Long curved walls rose high above the central floor. Lights from distant stars passed through transparent panels, giving the hall a cold blue glow. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in floating platforms arranged in circles. Some were tall and thin with glowing skin. Some were covered in armor. Others had no faces at all, only shifting shadows inside energy fields. At the very center of the chamber stood one human. Ambassador Elias Ward stood straight, hands behind his back, wearing a simple, dark uniform with the symbol of Earth on his chest. He looked calm, but every eye in the chamber was on him. The meeting had already lasted 3 hours. Earth had requested equal voting power in trade and security matters. The request was simple. The reaction was not. High Chancellor Vorik of the Karth Dominion leaned forward on his elevated platform. His species was large, with gray skin and burning yellow eyes. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber without need of technology. Humanity asked for equality. Vorik said slowly, "Equality requires strength. Tell us, Ambassador, where is yours?" A few scattered sounds came from other platforms. Some were clicks, some were strange whistles. On human translation screens, one word appeared again and again: laughter. Ambassador Ward did not move. He kept his voice steady. Earth has honored every treaty. Earth has defended every trade lane assigned to it. Earth has never broken its word. Vorik's lips pulled back, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Yes," he said, "you defend the outer lanes. The forgotten ones. The dangerous ones no one else wants." More laughter filled the chamber, louder this time. A tall, blue-skinned delegate from the Serati Combine raised her hand. "Let's speak truth," she said. "Humans are useful. They survive harsh worlds. They fight well when commanded. But leadership? No. The Council leads. Humanity follows." Another wave of agreement spread across the platforms. Ambassador Ward felt the weight of it, but his face remained neutral. On Earth, billions were watching the live transmission. In homes, in offices, in underground military command centers, humans watched as their species was discussed like a minor servant race. Vorik stood to his full height. "For 100 years," he continued, "we have allowed Earth to sit in this chamber. We have protected your expansion. We have opened our markets to you. And now you ask for equal voice." He paused, scanning the hall. "Ambassador, humanity survives because we permit it." The words hung in the air like poison. Some delegates did not laugh this time. Some only watched carefully. The human ambassador slowly lifted his eyes and met Vorik's burning stare. "Are you saying," Ward asked calmly, "that Earth is weak?" Vorik did not hesitate. "Yes," he said. "You are small. You are divided. You are emotionally unstable. You are tolerated, not respected." A quiet murmur spread through the chamber. The insult was direct now, not hidden behind politics, clear and sharp. On Earth, military officers clenched their fists. Politicians whispered urgently. Social networks exploded with anger. But in the chamber, the human did something unexpected. He nodded once. Just once. "Understood," Ambassador Ward said. The simplicity of the response caused confusion. Vorik tilted his head slightly. "You understand your place?" he asked. Ward's expression did not change. "I understand your position clearly." A smaller alien delegate leaned forward. "Perhaps humanity should be reminded," it said softly, "that protection can be withdrawn." That sentence caused louder approval from several powerful species. The idea spread quickly. If Earth was weak, perhaps its patrol sectors could be reassigned. Perhaps its trade access could be reduced. Perhaps its voice could be limited officially. Vorik raised one large hand, calling for silence. "The Karth Dominion proposes that Earth's request for equal authority be denied. Furthermore, we recommend a review of Earth's defensive privileges." A voting sequence began. Lights across the chamber turned different colors as species cast their decisions. Green, blue, purple. Very few turned white in support of Earth. The final result appeared in the center hologram. Earth's request was rejected by overwhelming majority. Vorik looked satisfied. This session concludes, he announced. Humanity will continue its current role. Nothing more. He then looked directly at Ambassador Ward one final time. Be grateful for what you are given. The chamber doors began to open. Delegates started speaking among themselves, already dismissing the human presence. Ambassador Ward activated his small wrist device. The live transmission to Earth continued. Billions waited for his reaction. He stepped forward slightly. His voice remained calm. The Council has made its view clear, he said. Humanity has been heard. He paused for just a moment. Not long enough to show anger. Not long enough to show pride. Noted. That was all he said. He turned and walked out of the chamber alone. No shouting. No threats. No argument. The massive doors closed behind him with a deep metallic sound. Inside the hall, most delegates felt satisfied. The matter was finished. Earth had been reminded of its place. But far away, on a blue planet orbiting a quiet yellow star, something else was happening. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, inside a secured command bunker, the transmission ended. Silence filled the room. Military leaders, intelligence directors, and elected officials sat around a circular table. No one spoke for several long seconds. Finally, Earth's defense secretary folded his hands. So, he said quietly, we are tolerated. The president of Earth looked at the frozen image of Vorik on the large screen. They believe we survive because they allow it, she replied. One general leaned forward. Ma'am, our fleets guard 60% of outer trade routes. Our deep space monitoring network feeds them early warnings daily. Our rapid response units have saved at least 12 Council worlds from pirate attacks in the last year alone. Another officer added, they do not even know about Project Night Shield. The president stood slowly. Her expression was not angry. It was focused. If they see us as weak, she said, then they do not understand what we actually do. She looked around the table. Maybe it is time they learn what happens when we stop. The room grew very still. The defense secretary spoke carefully. That would mean full withdrawal. The president nodded once. Cancel every treaty, she said. In orbit above Earth, hidden fleets received encrypted signals. Across human space, automated systems prepared new directives. Trade gates calculated shutdown sequences. Defense networks shifted to independent mode. No announcements were made publicly. No threats were sent to the Council. The galaxy went asleep that night, believing humanity had accepted humiliation. They did not realize that before the next sunrise reached the Council chamber, every agreement that held their peaceful order together would quietly disappear. When the Council chamber lights dimmed and the alien delegates returned to their worlds, they believed the matter was finished. In their minds, humanity had been reminded of its place. The laughter, the votes, the rejection, everything had gone exactly as expected. But while the galaxy slept in comfort, Earth did not sleep at all. Deep beneath the mountains of North America, inside a hardened underground command center, a single order moved through secure channels. It was simple. It was clear. Cancel every treaty. At exactly midnight, Universal Council time, Earth's Central Artificial Intelligence activated Protocol Severance. Across human-controlled space, encrypted signals flashed faster than light. Trade agreements were marked terminated. Defense alliances were flagged inactive. Shared military access codes were erased. Automatic supply shipments were halted. Human patrol fleets guarding outer trade routes received new instructions. Return to human space immediately. No explanation was sent with the cancellation notices. Only a short message followed each one, effective immediately. By the time the first alien sunrise touched Council space, thousands of notifications had reached government systems across the galaxy. On the capital world of the Karth Dominion, High Chancellor Vorik was still resting when his advisors rushed into his private chamber. His assistant projected a glowing red alert in front of him. Chancellor, the advisor said carefully, Earth has terminated all formal agreements. Vorik's yellow eyes narrowed. Define terminated, he demanded. All trade, defense, research, and shared patrol treaties have been canceled. Access codes revoked. Human fleets are withdrawing from assigned sectors. Vorik sat upright. On whose authority? The advisor hesitated. It appears to be a unified planetary directive. Vorik let out a low growl. They cannot do that. The treaties were binding. Yes, Chancellor, the advisor replied. They were binding on both sides. Similar scenes unfolded across dozens of alien worlds. On the Cerati homeworld, blue-skinned officials stared in confusion at their data screens. Is this a negotiation tactic? One asked. Perhaps they seek leverage, another suggested. But as hours passed, it became clear this was not negotiation. Human cargo ships docked at foreign ports began sealing their containers. Trade envoys boarded return vessels without ceremony. Joint research stations reported that human scientists were packing equipment and shutting down shared systems. The changes were calm, organized, and immediate. There were no protests, no public statements, only action. In the outer regions of Council space, merchant captains noticed something else. Human patrol ships that normally scanned for pirates were gone. Long-range sensors that once transmitted early threat warnings had gone silent. At first, many assumed it was temporary maintenance. Then a convoy traveling through the Nerex corridor sent out a distress call. Multiple hostile vessels detected, the captain reported, requesting immediate support from nearest human patrol unit. There was no answer. The request was repeated 3 times. Silence followed. On Earth, inside the command bunker, large screens displayed real-time updates. Icons representing human fleets moved steadily inward toward defended human territory. Automated border defenses powered up along Earth's outer colonies. Civilian populations were informed only that a strategic realignment was underway. The president watched quietly as the final treaty status turned red. Defense Secretary Hale spoke from beside her. All agreements officially void. Foreign governments are requesting clarification. Have we responded? She asked. Yes, Madam President. Standard reply. Humanity has chosen sovereign independence. She nodded slightly. Good. In the Galactic Council emergency chamber, delegates began to gather again. The same hall that had echoed with laughter now buzzed with tension. High Chancellor Vorik stood at the center platform, his voice louder than before. This is a reckless display, he declared. Humanity cannot sustain isolation. They rely on our markets. A smaller delegate interrupted. Chancellor, our outer mining colonies rely on human security escorts. Without them, shipments are exposed. The Cerati representative added, our deep space sensor grid depended on human data relays. Entire sectors are now blind. Vorik's jaw tightened. Then we will replace them, he said firmly. The Dominion fleet will extend coverage. An officer standing behind him whispered something urgent into his ear. Vorik's expression shifted slightly. Report, he ordered aloud. The officer swallowed. Dominion patrol groups are already stretched thin. We assigned those distant routes to humanity decades ago because they were resource-heavy. A quiet realization began spreading through the chamber. Earth had not been sitting quietly for a century out of weakness. They had been handling the dangerous edges of known space. They had guarded unstable wormholes. They had responded first to pirate activity. They had absorbed losses without complaint. And now, suddenly, that layer of protection was gone. In a remote trade lane near the edge of Council territory, a cluster of cargo ships drifted cautiously through dark space. Their captain checked the schedule again. A human escort vessel was supposed to meet them at this waypoint. The rendezvous time passed. Open channel to Earth Patrol Command, the captain ordered. The communication officer tried repeatedly. Only an automated response returned. Treaty inactive. No assistance authorized. A cold silence filled the bridge. Increase shields, the captain whispered. Hours later, shadowed shapes appeared on long-range scanners. Fast, unidentified. The captain felt fear rise in his chest. There had always been dangers in the outer dark. That was why humans had been there. Back in the council chamber, an urgent transmission arrived mid-session. A convoy under Cerati protection was under attack in the Nerex corridor. Multiple vessels disabled. Casualties unknown. The hall erupted into overlapping voices. Vorik raised his hand for silence, but this time it did not come quickly. The Sarity delegate looked directly at him. "This sector was under human watch," she said. Vorik answered sharply. "It was reassigned when they withdrew." "Reassigned?" she replied. "Or abandoned?" The word hung heavy in the air. On Earth, Ambassador Elias Ward stood once again inside a quiet diplomatic office. He watched reports come in with steady eyes. An aide approached him. "Sir, the Council has requested an emergency dialogue. They claim destabilization." Ward folded his hands behind his back, just as he had in the chamber. "Has Earth violated any law?" he asked calmly. "No, sir." "Have we attacked anyone?" "No," Ward nodded once. "Then we're not responsible for instability." He looked out through the reinforced glass toward the stars. Somewhere beyond that darkness, the Council was beginning to understand the cost of their words. Humanity had not shouted. Humanity had not threatened. Humanity had simply stepped back. And in that sudden absence, the galaxy was starting to feel something it had not felt in generations. Vulnerable. The first full day without human protection felt normal to most of the galaxy. Trade ships still launched from busy ports. Council officials still attended meetings. News networks still debated whether Earth's decision was a political move that would soon be reversed. Many leaders convinced themselves that humanity would return after making its point. After all, humans benefited from trade. Humans benefited from shared research. Humans needed the Council. That was what everyone believed. But in the darker edges of known space, reality was beginning to change. In the Nerex corridor, broken cargo vessels drifted slowly among scattered debris. The pirate attack had been fast and brutal. Without the usual human patrol presence, the convoy had little warning. By the time Council reinforcements arrived, 3 transport ships were gone and 2 others were heavily damaged. Survivors were rescued, but whispers spread quickly through trade networks. Where were the humans? Merchants asked. Why did they not respond? On the Sarity homeworld, emergency meetings continued through the night cycle. A senior military analyst projected a star map inside the defense chamber. Red markers blinked along outer routes. In the past 24 hours, the analyst explained, pirate activity has increased by 37% in sectors previously guarded by Earth. A counselor frowned. Coincidence? The analyst shook his head. Unlikely. Criminal groups test for weakness. They must have noticed the patrol withdrawal. Meanwhile, on Earth, the mood was controlled but serious. In the underground command center, holographic displays showed identical star maps. But unlike the Council, human intelligence officers were not surprised. Admiral Chun stood before the projection with her arms crossed. "Predictive models confirm this escalation," she said calmly. "Pirate factions rely on our response times. With us gone, they move quickly." The defense secretary nodded. "Are any attacks within human territory?" "Negative," Admiral Chun replied. "All current incidents are outside sovereign human space." The president listened carefully. "Maintain observation only," she ordered. "No intervention beyond our borders." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, tension had replaced confidence. Delegates who once laughed now spoke in quieter tones. High Chancellor Vorik stood again at the central platform, though his posture seemed less relaxed. "The Dominion fleet has been reassigned to cover the Nerex corridor," he announced. "Additional ships will secure other outer routes." A smaller delegate raised a concern. "Chancellor, those fleets were allocated for border defense against unknown regions." Vorik responded sharply. "We will not allow criminals to exploit temporary instability." But deep down, even he understood something uncomfortable. The outer lanes had always been dangerous. That was why they had given them to humanity decades ago. Humans accepted the assignments without complaint. They stationed long-range sensors in unstable systems. They built small listening posts near pirate strongholds. They lost ships sometimes, but they never made public accusations. They simply handled it. Now those quiet operations were gone. Far beyond the Council's main territory, inside a hidden asteroid base, a pirate leader studied intercepted transmissions. His species was small but intelligent, with sharp black eyes that reflected dim red lights. Human patrol patterns have collapsed, one of his officers reported, confirmed across 6 sectors. The pirate leader smiled slowly. And council fleets? Slow response times. Poor coordination. The leader leaned back in his chair. Then we expand operations. Focus on high-value convoys. Avoid direct engagement with Dominion warships. His officers nodded. For years, pirate groups had avoided sectors under human watch. Humans were unpredictable. They did not negotiate with raiders. They tracked them across systems if necessary. Many pirate captains had disappeared after crossing human patrol lines. But now the risk had changed. In another part of space, a mining colony near the edge of Council territory sent a distress signal. Unknown vessels were scanning the colony's outer perimeter. The colony governor attempted to contact the nearest human defense station out of habit. An automated message returned. Treaty inactive. Assistance unavailable. The governor stared at the screen in disbelief. They were always the fastest to respond, he whispered. Council military ships eventually arrived hours later, driving the unknown vessels away. But the delay left fear behind. On Earth, Ambassador Elias Ward attended a closed-door briefing with civilian leaders. A communications officer entered quickly. Sir, Council representatives are requesting direct dialogue. They claim rising instability threatens regional peace. Ward remained calm. Have they acknowledged their statements at the previous session? He asked. No, sir. They frame the situation as unexpected aggression from criminal elements. Ward nodded slightly. Then the situation is not political. It is structural. He paused, choosing his words carefully. For 100 years, humanity reinforced the structure quietly. In the council chamber, a younger delegate finally spoke openly what others were thinking. Perhaps we underestimated Earth's role, she said. A few murmurs of agreement followed. Vorik's eyes narrowed. Humanity performed assigned duties, he insisted. Nothing more. The Serity representative responded firmly. Assigned duties that none of us volunteered to perform. Silence followed that statement. The truth was simple. The Council had benefited from humanity's willingness to guard the dangerous edges. They had grown comfortable. They had grown dependent. And they had mistaken reliability for weakness. Reports continued to arrive. Insurance costs for trade routes doubled overnight. Merchant guilds demanded increased security guarantees. Smaller species began privately contacting Earth, asking whether independent agreements could be discussed. None received a reply. Earth maintained silence. In the underground command center, Admiral Chun pointed to new data points appearing along border systems. There is another concern, she said quietly. The president looked at her. Explain. Chun expanded the star map beyond known pirate territories. Faint signals were emerging from deep, uncharted space. These signatures were previously monitored by our outer listening posts, Chun said. Without active patrols, our sensor coverage beyond council borders is reduced. The defense secretary understood immediately. Are you suggesting external forces may notice this shift? Chun nodded. It is possible. The room grew quiet. Humanity had not only been guarding against pirates. They had also been watching the dark beyond map space. Watching things the council barely believed existed. The president folded her hands. Continue passive monitoring. Do not alert the council. Across the galaxy, tension slowly replaced pride. Worlds that once mocked humanity now watched their trade routes nervously. Leaders who once spoke with arrogance now requested updates every hour. And somewhere in the silent darkness beyond the outermost systems, something else observed the weakening edges of council space. Something that had always stayed just beyond reach of human patrol lines. And now, for the first time in a century, those patrol lines were gone. On the 4th day after humanity withdrew from every treaty, the illusion of control finally began to break. What had started as scattered pirate raids now grew into coordinated strikes. Merchant guilds across council space reported heavy losses. Insurance networks collapsed under emergency claims. Entire trade corridors slowed to half capacity. Fear moved faster than any ship. In the outer Kelmer Passage, A large Dominion convoy traveled under heavy guard. Warships surrounded cargo carriers loaded with rare minerals and advanced components. The Dominion believed strength would send a clear message. They did not expect the attack to come from multiple directions at once. Pirate vessels emerged from hidden asteroid fields, jamming communications and targeting escort ships first. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. 2 Dominion warships were crippled. 3 cargo ships were destroyed. When reinforcements finally arrived, the attackers had already vanished into deep space. For the first time in decades, a Dominion convoy had suffered such damage. News spread quickly. On the Karth capital world, High Chancellor Vorik slammed his fist against a stone council table. Increase fleet deployment, he ordered. Mobilize reserve squadrons. A military commander hesitated before speaking. Chancellor, reserves are limited. We are extending beyond sustainable range. Vorik's eyes burned with anger. Then reduce inner patrols. The outer lanes must remain secure. But reducing inner patrols created new risks. Smaller member species began to worry that the Council could no longer protect even its core systems. In the Galactic Council chamber, an emergency session filled the hall once again. The same platforms that once echoed with laughter now carried urgent voices. The Cerati representative addressed the assembly. Losses have tripled in 4 days. Our fleets are not positioned for wide-range defense. They were structured around human patrol support. A delegate from a smaller trade-based species spoke next. Our economy depends on stable routes. Without consistent security, we cannot function. Vorik stood tall, but his tone was more controlled than before. Humanity's withdrawal is irresponsible, he said. Their sudden exit destabilized the region. At that moment, Ambassador Elias Ward appeared on the chamber's main screen by request of several member species. He stood in a simple room on Earth, calm as always. Humanity has violated no agreements, Ward said clearly. We ended voluntary partnerships. We have not attacked any council member. A delegate interrupted sharply. But your absence created chaos. Ward's eyes remained steady. Criminal activity existed before our withdrawal. Humanity reduced it through effort and sacrifice. If the structure collapses without us, perhaps the structure relied more on us than acknowledged. A low murmur spread through the chamber. Vorik narrowed his gaze. Are you implying the council is weak? Ward answered without emotion. I am stating that dependence should not be confused with superiority. Silence followed. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Back on Earth, inside the underground command center, new sensor data flashed across the central display. Admiral Chen studied the readings carefully. Unusual movement beyond the Tyrex boundary, she said. The president stepped closer. Pirates? Chen shook her head. No, these signatures are larger. Organized, not standard raider behavior. The defense secretary leaned forward. Military? Chen hesitated. Unknown origin. They remained outside our former patrol perimeter for years. Now they're moving closer. The president understood immediately. Humanity had not only been protecting trade lanes from criminals. They had been forming a quiet barrier between the council and the deeper dark. And now that barrier was thinner. Meanwhile, in the outer Reimer system, a mining colony sent a desperate transmission. This time it was not pirates. Massive, unidentified vessels had entered the system without warning. They did not communicate. They did not broadcast demands. They moved directly toward infrastructure platforms. Colony defense cannons fired, but barely damaged the intruders. Within minutes, orbital mining stations were destroyed. The unknown ships then withdrew just as quickly as they arrived. Casualties were high. Survivors described the attackers as silent and precise. In the council chamber, the Reimer attack report arrived during open debate. Fear replaced frustration instantly. This is not piracy, the Cerati representative said quietly. Vorik's expression hardened. Identify the aggressor. Unknown, the military analyst replied. Technology does not match known council species. Eyes slowly turned toward the human screen. Ward remained composed. Humanity monitored unusual deep space signals for decades, he said. We shared filtered warnings when threats approached trade lanes. A delegate demanded, "Why were we not told of this scale?" Ward answered carefully, "Because the scale never reached your borders." The chamber grew still. The realization formed slowly but clearly. Humanity had been absorbing more danger than anyone knew. Vorik's voice was lower now. "Are you suggesting these attackers remain distant because of human patrols?" Ward did not smile. "I am suggesting that consistent presence discourages expansion." On Earth, Admiral Chun zoomed out the star map. The unknown fleet's signatures were increasing along multiple vectors. "They are testing boundaries," she said. The president folded her arms. "Do they know we withdrew from the council?" Chun answered honestly. "If they monitor regional transmissions, yes." The defense secretary spoke quietly. "Then they see weakness." Hours later, another outer colony reported scans from similar unidentified ships. Panic began spreading among smaller council worlds. Emergency defense coalitions formed quickly, but coordination was poor. Each species operated under different command systems. Response times were slow. Losses continued. In private channels, some council members reached out to Earth again. Their messages were more respectful now. They did not demand assistance. They asked for information. Ward reviewed each message, but issued no immediate reply. Humanity watched. Humanity calculated. Humanity remembered the laughter in the chamber only days earlier. In the Galactic Council hall, Vorik finally spoke with less pride and more caution. "The situation requires unity," he admitted. "We must request strategic dialogue with Earth." The word request felt heavy in his mouth. On Earth, the president received the official transmission from the council marked highest urgency. She read it silently. The message no longer mentioned weakness. It no longer mentioned tolerance. It asked for cooperation against a growing unknown threat. She looked toward Admiral Chun. "Are our borders secure?" Chun nodded. "Fully operational." The president took a slow breath. "Then we continue to observe." She placed the message aside. "Let the galaxy feel the absence a little longer." Beyond the edge of mapped space, massive shadowed vessels adjusted their course. For years, they had remained cautious of one species that patrolled relentlessly and unpredictably. Now that species had stepped back, the dark was moving closer. And for the first time in a century, there was no human patrol line standing quietly in its path. By the fifth day, the galaxy no longer argued about whether humanity's withdrawal mattered. The evidence was everywhere. Trade losses continued to rise. Outer colonies reported constant scans from unknown vessels. Pirate groups operated more boldly than ever before. Insurance networks were failing. Military fleets were stretched thin. What once felt like a political disagreement had become a growing security crisis. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. No one laughed now. No one spoke about weakness. High Chancellor Vorik stood silently as updated reports filled the central hologram. Red markers blinked across the outer sectors. 3 more colonies attacked, a military analyst announced. Unknown fleet signatures confirmed in each incident. Their movements are coordinated. The Cerity representative spoke in a quiet but firm tone. "We are not facing random raids. This is organized expansion." A smaller delegate added nervously. "They are probing our borders." Testing response time. Vorik finally spoke. "Deploy every available Dominion warship to outer sectors." An officer responded carefully. "Chancellor, if we commit all outer fleets, inner core systems will be exposed." For a moment, Vorik had no answer. The Council had built its power around cooperation, but much of its outer security had quietly depended on Earth's steady presence. That foundation was gone. On Earth, far beneath the surface, the underground command center was active but controlled. Large displays showed the same red markers seen in the council chamber. But here, the pattern was clearer. Admiral Chun stood beside a projection of deep space. "The unknown fleet is moving along corridors previously patrolled by us," she explained. "Their path follows our old defense grid exactly." The defense secretary frowned. "So they studied our positions." Chun nodded. "Or they avoided them." The president looked at the expanding map. "How long have we tracked this fleet?" 47 years, Chen answered. We labeled them as a potential external power. They never crossed into Council territory, while our patrol network remained active. The room grew quiet. Humanity had been watching this threat alone for decades. They had reinforced unstable wormholes. They had built listening stations in dark systems no one else wanted. They had invested resources without public credit, not because they were ordered to, but because they believed the galaxy needed stability. Now that stability was weakening, Ambassador Elias Ward entered the command center after finishing another round of diplomatic requests. More council members are asking for strategic data, he reported. Privately, not through official channels. The president looked at him. In Vorik, he has requested direct dialogue. Ward paused slightly. His tone has changed. The defense secretary gave a small nod. Reality has changed. At that moment, an alert sounded across the command center. Admiral Chun adjusted the display quickly. A large Reimer survivor convoy was being intercepted again by unknown vessels. This time, the attackers did not immediately fire. They surrounded the convoy and transmitted a signal. Translation in progress, an officer said. The room waited. A mechanical voice filled the chamber after decoding. Territory unclaimed. Expansion permitted. Resistance inefficient. The president's expression hardened. They consider council space unclaimed? Chen answered calmly. From their perspective, there is no unified defense barrier now. The defense secretary looked at the president. We can intercept before casualties increase. A long pause followed. The decision weighed heavily. Humanity had withdrawn to prove a point, but civilians were now at risk. The president spoke carefully. Prepare a limited response group. Defensive only. No council coordination. Admiral Chen nodded and issued commands. Far above Earth, hidden within a region of space masked by advanced distortion fields, several massive ships powered up. These were not standard patrol vessels. They were part of Project Night Shield. For decades, humanity had invested quietly in a fleet designed not for display, but for deterrence. Sleek black hulls reflected no starlight. Energy signatures were tightly controlled. Weapon systems were advanced beyond standard council technology. These ships rarely appeared in open space. They did not attend parades. They did not represent political power. They existed for one purpose: to hold back the dark. As the unknown fleet prepared to seize the Reimer convoy, space around them suddenly bent. Human ships emerged without warning. No dramatic announcement. No warning speech. Just presence. The unknown vessels shifted formation immediately. They recognized this pattern. They had encountered it before at the edges of space. A silent standoff formed. Inside the lead human ship, Commander Arjun Rao studied the enemy configuration. Open channel, he ordered. A calm human voice transmitted across space. You are approaching protected civilians. Withdraw immediately. The mechanical alien voice responded. Protection network removed. Claim valid. Commander Rao's expression did not change. Incorrect. Without further words, human ships adjusted formation. Precision targeting systems locked onto key propulsion nodes of the unknown fleet. A brief, controlled burst of energy fired. Two alien vessels lost maneuvering capability instantly, but were not destroyed. The message was clear. The unknown fleet paused. After several tense seconds, their formation broke. Engines flared. They retreated beyond the system's edge. The convoy was safe. On the Council capital world, long-range sensors detected the engagement. Delegates watched in stunned silence as data confirmed what had happened. Human ships more advanced than expected, had intervened with efficiency and restraint. The Serity representative spoke softly. They never stopped watching. Vorik stared at the tactical replay. Why did they not reveal this fleet before? No one answered. The truth was uncomfortable. Humanity did not build strength for applause. They built it for necessity. Back on Earth, Commander Rao's report reached the president. Enemy withdrew after minimal force demonstration, he said. They will reassess before attempting further expansion. The president nodded. Return to shadow position. As the Night Shield fleet disappeared back into hidden space, Ambassador Ward looked at the president thoughtfully. "The council has seen enough to understand," he said. The president replied calmly, "Understanding and respect are different things." Across the galaxy, words spread quietly. Humanity had not collapsed. Humanity had not panicked. Humanity had not begged for forgiveness. They had simply stepped back, and when true danger appeared, they acted with precision and control. The laughter from the council chamber felt very distant now, and in the deep dark beyond mapped space, the unknown power adjusted its strategy. For decades, it had respected one quiet barrier. That barrier had not disappeared. It had only stepped into the shadows. The Reimer convoy survived, but the message traveled faster than any ship. Across council space, governments replayed the sensor footage again and again. The unknown fleet had surrounded helpless civilians. Then human warships appeared from nowhere. They did not shout. They did not threaten. They disabled 2 enemy vessels with perfect accuracy and forced the rest to retreat. It was not a large battle. It was not dramatic, but it changed everything. In the Galactic Council chamber, silence filled the air as the final tactical report ended. High Chancellor Vorik stood still, staring at the frozen image of the black human ships. They looked different from the patrol vessels the Council was used to seeing. Sleeker, larger, more advanced. These ships were never registered with the Council Defense Network, one analyst said carefully. The Cerity representative folded her hands. That means humanity maintained independent strategic forces outside our knowledge. A delegate from smaller world spoke nervously. If they possessed fleets like this, then they were never weak. No one laughed this time. Vorik finally spoke, his voice controlled. They acted without council authorization. The Cerity delegate responded calmly. They acted to defend civilians we failed to protect. The words hit harder than any weapon. Meanwhile, in deep space beyond the Tyrex boundary, the unknown fleet gathered. Their damaged ships were being repaired by cold mechanical drones. Inside the largest vessel, a tall metallic figure observed holographic projections of the recent encounter. "Human Defense Network active," it stated in a flat voice. "Barrier species confirmed operational." Another mechanical voice responded. "Barrier strength underestimated." The tall figure processed the information. "Expansion requires greater force concentration." Orders were transmitted instantly. More unknown vessels began moving from the dark regions beyond mapped space. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched new long-range signals appear. The number of unknown ships was increasing. "They are regrouping," she said. This was only a probe. The president stood beside her. "How long until they test again?" Chen calculated quickly. Less than 48 hours. Ambassador Ward entered the command center with fresh diplomatic updates. "The council has officially requested military cooperation," he said. "They acknowledge the external threat." The defense secretary raised an eyebrow. "Do they acknowledge their previous statements?" Ward paused. "Not directly, but their tone is different. There is no arrogance left." The president considered this carefully. "Prepare a response. We will attend a joint strategic session." Within hours, the Galactic Council chamber was active once again. This time, human representatives were not standing alone at the center. Ambassador Ward appeared on equal-level projection beside other major species leaders. The shift in positioning was small, but symbolic. Vorik addressed the chamber first. "The unknown fleet presents a threat to all member worlds," he said. "We request shared intelligence and coordinated defense planning." Ward nodded slightly. "Humanity has monitored this force for decades. We designated them as the Virix Collective. They are expansion-driven. They test borders slowly before committing full invasion fleets." A ripple of concern moved through the chamber. "Why were we not informed of this designation earlier?" a delegate asked. Ward answered calmly. "Because while our patrol grid remained active, the collective never crossed into council territory. There was no invasion." The Cerity representative spoke carefully. "And now," Admiral Chen's image appeared beside Ward. "Now they believe the barrier is weakened," she explained. Our withdrawal from outer patrol sectors created the impression of vulnerability. Vorik's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you saying the situation exists because of your political decision? Chen met his gaze evenly. No, Chancellor. The situation exists because an external power seeks expansion. Our political decision revealed how much of your security relied on us. Silence followed. The truth was difficult but undeniable. Council fleets had grown comfortable. They had focused on internal disputes and economic growth, while humanity handled the dangerous frontier. Now the frontier was active again. An urgent alert interrupted the session. Another outer system, Draxel Colony, was under attack. This time, the Virex fleet did not retreat quickly. They deployed heavy assault vessels and began targeting planetary defense grids directly. Panic spread through the chamber. Dominion fleet is 2 hours away, an officer reported. Draxel shields will not last that long. The Cerati delegate looked at Ward. Can humanity respond? Ward did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the president off-screen. After a brief nod, Ward spoke. Human Rapid Response Group is en route. In orbit above Earth, the Night Shield fleet activated again. But this time they did not travel alone. Standard human naval forces followed behind them in layered formation. Humanity was no longer hiding its strength. Near Draxel Colony, explosions lit up space as Virex vessels pounded defense stations. Civilian evacuation ships struggled to escape the gravity well. Just as shield generators began to fail, space distorted again. Human ships emerged in precise formation. Commander Arjun Rao's voice echoed across open channels. All Virex vessels disengage immediately. The mechanical reply came instantly. Territory resistance inadequate. Expansion continues. Rao did not argue. Human ships moved like a single machine. Coordinated strikes targeted Virex weapon arrays first. Advanced electronic warfare systems disrupted enemy targeting. Within minutes, 3 assault ships were disabled. But this time, the Virex fleet did not retreat fully. Reinforcements arrived from hyperspace, larger vessels than before. The battle intensified. On the Council capital world, delegates watched the live feed in stunned silence. Human ships moved with discipline and control. They protected evacuation corridors first, placing themselves between enemy fire and civilian transports. Dominion reinforcements finally arrived and joined the fight, but it was clear who was leading the defense pattern. Admiral Chen's tactical commands synchronized Council ships into a unified formation. For the first time, fleets that once operated separately were following human strategic guidance. After a fierce exchange lasting nearly an hour, the Virex forces withdrew again. Draxel Colony was damaged but still standing. Casualties were heavy, but total destruction had been avoided. Back in the Council chamber, no one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Vorik addressed Ward quietly. Humanity's response was decisive. Ward replied in simple words. Humanity defends stability. The Cerati representative added, perhaps it is time we recognize who maintained that stability all along. The weight of pride that once filled the chamber was gone. In its place was understanding, and a growing realization that the galaxy had survived for decades not because humanity was tolerated, but because humanity had chosen to protect. And beyond the edge of known space, the Virex Collective began mobilizing something far larger. The probing phase was ending. A real invasion was coming. The battle at Draxel Colony changed the mood of the galaxy completely. What had once been pride was now replaced with fear. The Virex Collective was no longer a distant rumor or a hidden threat. It was real, it was powerful, and it was moving closer with every passing hour. Across Council space, emergency sirens became common sounds. Defense budgets were increased overnight. Civilian evacuation drills were activated on dozens of worlds. For the first time in generations, the galaxy felt uncertain about its future. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere was tense but quieter than before. No one interrupted. No one mocked. High Chancellor Vorik stood at the center platform, but his voice carried less authority than it once had. The Virex attack on Draxel proves coordinated intent, he said. This is no longer border testing. This is preparation for invasion. The Sarati representative nodded slowly. Their fleet size increased during the second engagement. They are gathering strength. Vorik turned toward the human projection. Ambassador Ward, what is humanity's assessment? Ward stood calmly as always. The Virex collective follows a clear pattern. They probe. They test defenses. They calculate response times. Once they identify weakness, they commit full force. A smaller delegate spoke with visible concern. And have they identified weakness? Ward did not hesitate. Yes. Silence spread through the chamber. The answer was honest and direct. On Earth, deep within the underground command center, large holographic maps showed Virex fleet movements in red. The number of signals was increasing steadily beyond the Tyrex boundary. Admiral Chun zoomed in on the data clusters. They are forming staging zones, she explained. At least 3 major fleet concentrations. The defense secretary crosses arms. Estimated timeline? Chun responded calmly. Within 72 hours, they will attempt a large-scale strike. The president stood quietly for a long moment, studying the map. Which target? She asked. Chun highlighted several likely systems. Outer Council worlds first. They will aim to break morale and force political collapse. Ambassador Ward entered the room after finishing another emergency council session. They are requesting full alliance restoration, he said. They are willing to reinstate equal voting power. The defense secretary gave a slight, humorless smile. Now they offer equality. The president did not react emotionally. This is not about pride anymore, she said softly. This is about survival. Chun looked toward her. Our Night Shield fleet can hold outer sectors temporarily. But if they commit full invasion strength, we will need coordinated defense. The president nodded slowly. Prepare for joint command structure. Far beyond mapped space, inside the cold metallic halls of the Virex command vessel, signals pulsed in steady rhythm. The tall mechanical leader observed tactical projections. Barrier species actively defending peripheral systems, it stated. Resistance higher than calculated. Another voice replied. Collective strength sufficient for full penetration strike. The tall figure processed new data. Target primary council core system. Psychological collapse expected. Orders were transmitted. Massive Virex warships began aligning in formation. Their energy cores glowed with rising intensity. Back in council space, early warning sensors detected the movement. Emergency signals spread instantly across all major worlds. The targets soon became clear. The Virex fleet was heading toward the Karth Dominion's capital system, the political heart of the Galactic Council. Inside the council chamber, chaos erupted as military officers rushed in with updates. Virex Armada confirmed. Estimated arrival in 8 hours. Vorik's face hardened, but there was tension behind his eyes. Mobilize every Dominion fleet, he commanded. An officer responded carefully. Chancellor, even with full mobilization, we will be outnumbered. All eyes slowly turned toward the human projection again. Ward remained steady. Human fleets are already moving, he said. But understand this clearly. Humanity fights to protect civilians, not to restore political hierarchy. Vorik swallowed his pride. Understood. On Earth, final preparations were underway. The Night Shield fleet powered up at full capacity. Additional human carrier groups launched from hidden shipyards. For the first time, humanity was deploying the majority of its advanced military strength openly. Admiral Chen addressed fleet commanders across secure channels. Our objective is simple, she said. Protect population centers. Break enemy command structure. Avoid unnecessary destruction. Commander Arjun Rao responded from the bridge of his flagship. Night Shield ready. The president watched from the command center as ship after ship entered hyperspace. No matter what happens, she said quietly, we defend life. Hours later, space near the Karth capital system trembled as the Virex Armada emerged. It was larger than any previous encounter. Hundreds of vessels filled the darkness. Their formation was precise and silent. Dominion defense platforms activated immediately, firing long-range energy beams. The first wave of Virex ships absorbed the attacks and continued forward. Explosions lit the system's outer ring. Civilian ships scrambled to evacuate. Inside the council chamber, delegates watched their home system under siege. Fear replaced all remaining arrogance. Just as Virex assault ships approached orbital defense range, space distorted again. Human fleets arrived in layered formations, positioning themselves between the enemy and the capital planet. Commander Rao's voice transmitted across all channels. Virex Collective, you will withdraw. The mechanical reply came without hesitation. Core system resistance inefficient. Expansion inevitable. Human ships responded instantly. Coordinated strikes targeted Virex command vessels first. Advanced stealth units flanked the formation, disrupting communication relays. Dominion fleets joined the battle under human tactical direction. The scale of combat was immense. Energy beams crossed space like lightning. Disabled ships drifted among debris fields. But the key difference was coordination. Human strategy unified the chaotic council fleets into a defensive wall. Inside the Virex flagship, the tall metallic leader recalculated projections. Barrier species strength exceeds prediction, it stated. Sustained losses unacceptable. One by one, Virex vessels began retreat maneuvers. The invasion push slowed. After several intense hours, the Armada pulled back beyond the system's edge. The Karth capital world was damaged but alive. In the council chamber, no one cheered. They simply exhaled. Vorik looked at the human projection with something he had never shown before: respect. Without your intervention, he said quietly, our capital would have fallen. Ward answered in the same calm tone he had used since the beginning. Humanity does not tolerate expansionist threats. The laughter from days earlier felt like it belonged to another lifetime. The galaxy had seen the truth now. Humanity had not withdrawn because it was weak. Humanity had withdrawn to show what its absence truly meant. And as the Virex fleet regrouped in the darkness, one reality became clear to everyone watching. The next battle would decide more than territory. It would decide who truly stood as the guardian of the galaxy. The battle for the Karth capital system did not end the war. It only changed its direction. The Virex Collective had retreated, but they had not been defeated. Across the galaxy, damaged stations burned slowly in orbit. Debris fields drifted where proud warships once stood. Civilian ships crowded safe zones, waiting for updates. The victory felt temporary. Everyone understood that the next attack would be larger. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, silence replaced panic. Leaders no longer argued about authority. They spoke about survival. High Chancellor Vorik stood with visible fatigue on his face. Damage reports confirm heavy losses, he said, but our capital remains intact. The Cerati representative added quietly, because humanity led the defense. No one disagreed. Ambassador Elias Ward appeared once more in the central projection. His posture was calm, but the situation was serious. The Virex Collective will not repeat the same strategy, he said. They tested our response speed and coordination. Now, they will target our weakness. A smaller delegate asked, what weakness? Admiral Chen's image replaced Ward's. Unity, she answered. If they can divide us, they will overwhelm us. On Earth, preparations continued without rest. Shipyards operated at full capacity. Repair crews worked around the clock. The Night Shield fleet returned for rapid resupply before redeployment. Commander Arjun Rao stood on the bridge of his flagship, reviewing updated battle simulations. Their command vessels are central to coordination, he told his officers. If we break their command chain early, the rest of their fleet becomes slower and less efficient. Meanwhile, long-range sensors detected new Virex movements. This time, their fleet did not move in one large group. Instead, multiple strike forces split into different directions. Admiral Chun analyzed the pattern. They're attacking several outer systems at once, she explained. They want to stretch our defense thin. The president nodded. Then we do not spread ourselves thin. She looked at her advisors. We strike first. The decision surprised even some human officers. For decades, humanity had played defense quietly. Now, they would take initiative. Within hours, human reconnaissance ships tracked the largest Virex command cluster hiding near an uncharted nebula beyond Council space. The nebula distorted normal sensor readings, making it difficult for Council fleets to detect activity. But humanity had mapped its edges years earlier. In the Council chamber, Ward delivered the plan clearly. We will launch a direct strike against their Central Command fleet. Dominion and Cerity forces will defend Council systems while we engage. Vorik did not hesitate this time. You have our full support. For the first time, the words sounded genuine. The joint operation began silently. Human stealth vessels entered the nebula first, scanning for exact command ship locations. The Virex fleet believed the nebula provided safety. They did not expect humanity to move so quickly. Commander Rao stood at his command station as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the nebula's edge. All units, maintain tight formation, he ordered. Primary objective, Command Core. Human ships advanced into the glowing mist. Sensor interference increased, but human navigation systems adjusted smoothly. Soon, the massive Virex command vessels came into view, larger than any ship encountered before. They were protected by layered defense grids and escort fleets. Inside the Virex flagship, alarms activated. Barrier species offensive maneuver detected. A mechanical voice reported. The tall metallic leader turned toward the display. Humanity chooses escalation. The response was immediate. Virex escort ships launched toward the approaching human fleet. Energy weapons lit up the nebula with blinding flashes. Commander Rao remained steady. Execute Phase 1. Human ships split into coordinated wings. Electronic warfare units disrupted Virex targeting signals. Stealth frigates slipped behind enemy lines and fired precision shots at shield nodes. Larger human cruisers focused heavy beams on one central command vessel. The nebula trembled with explosions. Back in Council space, Dominion and Cerity fleets held defensive positions as smaller Virex strike groups tested outer systems. This time, coordination was stronger. Human tactical data flowed directly to Council commanders. Response times improved. For the first time, the Council fought as one force instead of separate factions. Inside the nebula, the battle intensified. One human cruiser took heavy damage, but rescue teams evacuated survivors quickly. Commander Rao focused on the main objective. Target Command Nexus. All firepower. A concentrated barrage struck the largest Virex vessel. Its shield grid flickered under the pressure. The tall metallic leader processed incoming damage reports rapidly. Command Core integrity failing, an internal voice warned. The leader calculated retreat probability. Collective survival requires withdrawal. Just as the command vessel prepared to jump to hyperspace, human interceptors disabled its propulsion systems. A final precise strike penetrated its reactor housing. The massive ship exploded in silent brilliance, sending shockwaves through the nebula. Across Virex fleet channels, coordination signals collapsed. Escort ships moved erratically. Some attempted retreat. Others drifted without direction. Commander Rao seized the moment. Push forward. Break remaining control nodes. Within an hour, the Virex formation dissolved. Surviving ships fled deeper into unknown space. The nebula slowly returned to quiet darkness. On Earth, cheers did not erupt. Instead, there was quiet relief. Admiral Chun confirmed the data. Primary command vessel destroyed. Multiple secondary cores eliminated. Their invasion capability reduced significantly. The president allowed herself a small breath. And our losses? Manageable, Chun replied. We held formation. In the Galactic Council chamber, delegates stood in silence as the final report arrived. The Virex Armada was in retreat across all sectors. Outer colonies reported no new attacks. The Sarati representative spoke softly. Humanity did not just defend us. They ended the threat at its source. Vorik looked toward Ward with steady eyes. We were wrong, he said openly. Humanity was never weak. Ward answered simply, strength does not always need to speak loudly. Across the galaxy, damaged worlds began repairs. Trade lanes slowly reopened under joint patrols led by human strategy. Fear was replaced by cautious hope. The Virex Collective had learned a hard lesson. The barrier species was not passive. It was patient, and when it chose to act, it did so with precision and overwhelming resolve. Humanity had stepped from the shadows, not for power, not for pride, but to remind the galaxy that silence should never be mistaken for weakness. The Virex retreat marked a turning point in the galaxy, but it did not end the threat. Across Council space, damaged systems were being repaired, but vigilance remained high. Intelligence reports indicated that while the main command fleet had been destroyed, scattered Virex groups still operated beyond map space. They had learned the cost of underestimating humanity, and now they would plan carefully. In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood was tense but respectful. High Chancellor Vorik stood at the center platform, visibly humbled. We underestimated Earth's strength and strategic foresight, he admitted. Our outer defenses relied on their presence. Our pride blinded us. The Sarati representative nodded. Their response was decisive. Humanity's coordination with Council fleets prevented what could have been catastrophic losses. Ward remained calm, as always. Humanity never sought recognition, he said. We act to ensure stability. The Council survived for decades because we chose to guard its edges quietly. Vorik exhaled slowly. We must revise our approach. Humanity's role is indispensable. On Earth, inside the underground command center, the mood was quiet but tense. Admiral Chun monitored new sensor reports. We are detecting residual Virex scouting groups in multiple sectors, she explained. They are testing patrol responses and sensor grids, but they have not engaged. The Defense Secretary frowned. Are they preparing a counterstrike? Chun shook her head slightly. We cannot predict. They learned patience from previous losses. They will likely wait for the right moment to regroup. The president considered the data carefully. Prepare contingency plans, she ordered. We must be ready if they attempt a second invasion. Ward entered the room with fresh updates from the Council. Multiple member species are requesting strategic cooperation agreements, he said. Private channels only. They want to formalize shared defense without returning to the previous treaties immediately. The president nodded. Good. Humanity will share tactical intelligence selectively. Let them prove they are willing to act responsibly. In the Council chamber, Vorik addressed the assembly. We must acknowledge the truth. Humanity's presence ensured our survival. We were blind to the dependence we created. The Sarati representative added, it is time to rebuild our defensive strategy under their guidance. A small murmur of agreement spread across the chamber. No one laughed, no one mocked, no one questioned. The galaxy had learned humility. Far beyond map space, the remaining Virex forces regrouped near the edges of uncharted systems. Their commanders communicated silently through secure channels. Losses are significant, one mechanical voice reported. Primary command structure eliminated. Retreat required. Another replied, patience is required. Barrier species strength must be considered in future operations. The tall Virex leader processed the data. Future strategy. Test weakness subtly. Avoid direct engagement until superior numbers achieved. Observation and stealth first. Across multiple sectors, their vessels adjusted course, returning to hidden systems to repair, reorganize, and wait. On Earth, Commander Arjun Rao debriefed the Night Shield fleet. The Virex retreat is temporary, he said. We cannot underestimate them. His officers nodded. Next engagement will be more complex, he added. We must continue to refine tactics and coordination with Council forces. Admiral Chen emphasized, our defensive systems are stronger than ever. Our sensor grid covers previously unmonitored regions. Our rapid response units are prepared. The president looked around the room. This is not the end. The Virex have seen our strength and will plan carefully. But the galaxy now understands that humanity's silence was never weakness. Ward spoke quietly from the side. For decades, we maintained order quietly. Now, we operate openly when necessary. The lesson is clear. Action is more powerful than words. In outer systems, recovering trade, convoys reported cautious optimism. Insurance networks began reopening, though premiums remained high. Colonies began repair operations under human and council coordination. Merchant guilds recognized the value of disciplined protection. In secret, small species that had been skeptical of human strength began requesting their own intelligence briefings. On the Virex side, intelligence sensors detected unusual patterns in human fleet deployments. They had expected humanity to remain defensive and reactive. Instead, humans had demonstrated patience, precision, and overwhelming efficiency. Plans to exploit Council weaknesses had failed. The Virex command calculated new probabilities, realizing that every future engagement would carry extreme risk. They would need significantly larger forces to achieve similar results. Back in the Council chamber, Vorik turned to the assembly. "We have been reminded of a simple truth," he said. "Strength is not always visible. The presence we dismissed as passive maintained the galaxy's stability for generations." The Cerity representative added, "We will rebuild our defenses, but we will no longer ignore the guidance or capabilities of humanity. We have learned humility at the edge of space." Ward remained calm, his posture steady. "Humanity did not act to teach lessons," he said. "We acted to preserve life. The galaxy has seen what silence, patience, and preparedness mean in practice. Let it be remembered. On Earth, the president watched sensor feeds showing fleets returning to their hidden positions. Night shield vessels quietly slipped back into deep space, cloaked from all observation. Civilian systems remained unaffected. Humanity had not sought recognition, yet its influence was undeniable. Admiral Chin spoke softly. "The Virex learned restraint today. The Council learned dependence. And we," she paused, looking at the president, "we have shown the galaxy that we act when necessary." The president nodded, "And they will remember it for generations." Across the galaxy, the Virex regrouped in silence. They had faced a species that acted decisively, strategically, and without hesitation. Any future attempt to test humanity would be met with overwhelming precision. The balance of power had shifted. The barrier species was no longer silent. It had stepped from the shadows and established its place as the true guardian of the galaxy. And in that quiet, the entire Council realized the weight of every decision made in the past century. Humanity's patience, endurance, and quiet strength had not been tolerated. They had been underestimated. And now, everyone understood that underestimation came at a price that few could afford. The final confrontation had been building for weeks. The Virex Collective, regrouped in the uncharted sectors beyond known space, had learned from previous defeats. They were cautious, patient, and determined to strike decisively. Every Council world trembled with anticipation, and human fleets remained on high alert. The Night Shield fleet, now reinforced with additional advanced vessels, prepared for the inevitable. Commander Arjun Rao stood on the bridge of the flagship, reviewing the final tactical plans. "This is what we've trained for," he said. "All units, maintain strict formation. Protect civilians first. Neutralize Virex command vessels at all costs." Admiral Chin's calm voice came over secure channels. "All intelligence confirmed. They will attempt a simultaneous strike across multiple outer systems to test our response and divide our forces." The president, standing in the underground command center, watched the display quietly. "We do not react to fear. We respond with precision. Humanity will protect life, not politics." Ward added, "This is not a Council operation. Humanity leads, the galaxy follows. That is the only way we survive." Hours later, The Virex fleets emerged from hyperspace near the designated sectors. Hundreds of vessels, larger and more coordinated than ever before, spread across a dozen systems. Their strategy was clear: strike simultaneously, disrupt human defenses, and overwhelm Council coordination. Sensor grids lit up with red alerts. Emergency transmissions from colonies poured in. Civilian evacuation ships scrambled while planetary defense systems activated. Commander Rao's voice cut through the tension. Night Shield, engage stealth approach. Disrupt their command nodes first. Human stealth frigates slipped silently through nebulae and asteroid fields, closing in on Virex command ships. They avoided detection until the last moment, then struck with precision energy blasts that disabled propulsion systems and shields. Secondary fleets followed immediately, targeting smaller escort vessels. Chaos erupted in the Virex formation. Inside the Virex flagship, the tall metallic leader analyzed the unfolding scenario. Barrier species offensive exceeds calculated response. It reported mechanically. Command node integrity failing in multiple sectors. Another voice responded. Their efficiency is unprecedented. Probability of successful invasion minimal. The leader paused, processing the reports. Adjust strategy. Concentrate remaining forces. Protect remaining command vessels. Prepare for retreat if necessary. Despite these adjustments, human tactical coordination remained faster. Night Shield commanders communicated directly with Council fleet leaders, aligning every vessel in real time. Attack vectors were predicted, countermeasures deployed instantly. Civilian ships were shielded, escape corridors maintained. The Virex fleet was precise, but it could not match human foresight. The battle raged across multiple systems for hours. Explosions lit dark space as massive energy beams collided. Virex vessels were disabled one by one, their formations collapsing. Stealth units neutralized remaining command signals, severing coordination between fleets. The Council fleets, once hesitant and disorganized, now moved in synchronized patterns, guided by human tactical oversight. Every maneuver minimized casualties and maximized damage to the enemy. On Earth, the President watched the live feed quietly. Ward stood beside her. "They underestimated our patience," he said, "and they will not make that mistake again." Admiral Chen's voice was calm but firm. "We are within range to end this. Virex command core vessels are exposed." Commander Rao spoke over secure channels. "All units, execute final strike sequence. Target their central command nodes. Precision only. No unnecessary destruction." The first strike hit. Energy beams tore through the central command vessel of the Virex fleet. Its shields flickered and failed. Secondary blasts disabled propulsion and communication systems across multiple adjacent vessels. The Virex fleet lost cohesion instantly. Ships collided, drifted, and surrendered to the gravitational pull of nearby systems. Inside the remaining Virex vessels, alarms blared as the tall metallic leader calculated outcomes. Probability of success, 0. Survival probability, low. Orders were given for full retreat, but human interceptors had already blocked escape routes. One by one, the remaining Virex vessels were disabled, captured, or forced to flee beyond map space. In the Galactic Council chamber, reports of the final engagement arrived in real time. Delegates watched stunned. Outer colonies were safe. Civilian ships remained intact. The once feared Virex collective was shattered, their forces scattered and broken. Vorik, sitting in the chamber, finally allowed himself to speak aloud. Humanity has not only defended the galaxy, they have ensured its survival. The Cerati representative nodded slowly. They were never weak. They were patient, calculated, resilient. Smaller species representatives murmured in agreement. Humility filled the chamber for the first time in centuries. On Earth, silence reigned in the command center. The President finally allowed herself a small nod. "The threat is neutralized for now," she said. Admiral Chen responded, "Yes, ma'am. All fleets are accounted for. Damage is minimal." Civilian systems remain unharmed. Ward added, humanity did not act for recognition. We acted to protect life. The galaxy now knows the cost of underestimating us. Commander Rao looked out the observation window at the stars. They will not forget this, and neither will we. The Virex had retreated beyond known space, regrouping in distant regions, their command hierarchy broken and fleet strength decimated. Intelligence reports indicated they would require decades to recover if they attempted another large-scale incursion at all. Across the galaxy, colonies slowly returned to normal activity. Trade resumed cautiously. Council fleets remained vigilant, now trained under human coordination. Lessons were learned. Dependence on humanity was no longer a secret. The message had been clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was patient, precise, and relentless when necessary. They did not seek glory, but they demanded respect. They had chosen to act only when the stakes were highest, preserving countless lives in the process. In the deep darkness beyond mapped space, the Virex collective plotted silently. Their patience was learned from experience. They had seen what misjudgment cost them. Humanity was no longer passive. Humanity was no longer to be underestimated. And on Earth, the Night Shield fleet returned to its hidden stations. Quietly, invisibly, they stood ready. The galaxy had witnessed the full extent of humanity's strength. A single truth remained. For those who sought to threaten the balance of life and civilization, the patient guardians of Earth were always watching, always ready, and always in control. The silence that followed was not fear. It was respect. For the first time in galactic history, the Council in every corner of civilization understood it. Humanity did not ask for trust. They earned it silently, with patience, precision, and unyielding resolve. The galaxy had survived the greatest threat it had ever faced, and it had humanity to thank, not for politics, not for treaties, but for being humanity, steadfast, patient, and unstoppable.